Welcome, friend. I'm TK, your tour guide to the past, and you are listening to For the Love of History, the podcast where we talk about world history, women's history, and weird history. Are you a fan of crime? A lover of shoplifting? Do you enjoy a 5-finger discount from time to time? I'm not a cop. I won't tell. Okay, you have to say if you're a cop, right? Right? Today, we are looking at the history of one of London's most infamous gangs. A gang made entirely of women who ruled London. But before we do that, we have to do a little bit of housekeeping to make sure that the lights stay on here at History Headquarters. First thing on the docket is the BFF history trip to Japan. It's going from August 24th to the 30th. You can come, spend a whole week with me, and it's my birthday week. My birthday is August 25th, if you didn't know, so put that on your calendar. I'll wait. Okay, awesome. So you could spend my birthday with me this year here in Japan, traveling across Kyoto, Osaka, and Nara, going to all sorts of cool places. We're gonna go to a blood temple. We're gonna karaoke and we're gonna go to a blood temple. It's amazing. You can secure your spot for this trip for just 25% of the final ticket price. So 25% down payment. Bam, boom, your spot is booked, and you have until 3 months before the trip to pay it off in full. So that's, again, 25% down, and your spot is booked. And there are still a few early bird spots left, but they are going quickly, so make sure that you head over there if you are even thinking about coming on the trip, to make sure that you secure that early bird discount. Second thing on the docket and final thing is the History BFF census has finished, and thank you so much to the people who participated. It really gives me a lot of guidance on where you want to see the podcast going and what other things you want to see with For the Love of History. That's how we started our book hub. That's how we started our other YouTube videos. And that's how we got some of our guest recommendations. So it's a great thing to do, and I appreciate you doing that. So the two winners of the census raffle will be announced. Will probably be out right now over on Instagram, unless you're listening on Patreon, because you get it early. So just wait. And with that, housekeeping is over, and it's time to put on your false arm and your special bloomers, you know, the ones with the deep pockets, because it's stealing time. So let's get to it. You're a young Victorian woman. You work a dead-end job as a seamstress, barely making enough money to keep yourself alive. Day in and day out, you handle silk and satins, creating pieces that will turn into a beautiful gown for some affluent London woman who probably has dozens of these same dresses in her closet with no idea of the work that goes into making each piece. See, you only make a few pieces nowadays. The old apprenticeship system is all but gone, and dressmakers don't pay fair wages, so you're stuck with piecework. You have all of this dressmaking and fashion knowledge in your noggin and nowhere to use it. No job ladder to climb, just piece after piece after piece. Finally, your workday is done, and one more blister appears on your fingers. You make your way to the southeast of London, and as you get closer to home, the houses become more like hovels, and the stores are increasingly run down. You're in the bad part of London, but suddenly you see a woman wearing diamonds and furs and pearls. In a place like this, she sticks out like a sore thumb, so of course you're staring at her, open-mouthed, gawking. The older woman catches you and startles you back into reality by waving a hand, beckoning you over. In the late 1800s, there were few options for the women of London's lower class. Garment work, prostitution, and a life of servitude under a husband or a mistress were about the only means of slight upward socioeconomic mobility a woman had. And even then, the dark, crippling shadow of poverty was never too far from a low-income Victorian woman's mind. The economic and work landscape of the time had drastically changed and would continue to do so until the First World War. The wave of the Industrial Revolution swept through the streets of London and carried with it the captains of industry who made oodles and oodles of money while the working class sank to the bottom. And yes, the Industrial Revolution did create more jobs, and yes, they were employed, but their lives did not significantly improve. Some historians would even argue it got worse, and I am some historians. This negative change can be seen extremely clearly when speaking about the garment and textile industries, which were mostly made up by women. The Industrial Revolution made ready-made clothing increasingly available, which in turn led to the decline of apprenticeship and small workshops. The system that had once housed, paid, and taught women a highly desirable and skilled profession was being phased out for piecework and factory jobs. Piecework allowed for employers to get around high labor wages, and by 1924, the average earning for a woman in the clothing industry was 30 shillings per week, which would be about 38 pounds in today's money. And with each year, the status and stability of working in the clothing trade plummeted. And this situation became worse for young women of the late 18 and early 1900s. They were caught at the crossroads of either joining a factory job and making barely enough to survive, or finding work in a house of some fancy lady and essentially losing their freedom. According to a 1891 census, servants were the single largest group of workers in the UK, employing 1.7 million women and girls. And those 1.7 million women and girls had an average salary of 17 pounds a year. 17 pounds a year, which equals to about 3,000 pounds in today's money. So for doing incredibly laborious domestic labor, you get 3,000 pounds a year. But wait, there's more. I'm like the worst ShamWow guy. But wait, there's more. And it gets worse. It's so much worse. 30% of those 1.7 million women were under the age of 20, and their average salary was between 7 and 12 pounds. Yeah. My flappers are gasted. My flappers are gasted, if you will. If you're not watching the YouTube version, I'm dressed as a flapper right now, which will make sense in a minute. Okay, so as romanticized and somewhat glamorized as some period dramas may make a servant life look, by the 1900s, the job was seen as a sentence. It was not this joyful, happy little relationship between a lady and her servant, nay, dear one. It was seen as a sentence, a job that anybody could do. You could be replaced as a servant. In an autobiography written by Jean Renee, a former domestic servant, she described the work as a 16-year sentence of hard labor and, quote, "My greatest horror was the knowledge that I would now have to submit to the badge of servitude, a cap and apron. By wearing a cap and apron, you showed the world that you were lesser than because you were a domestic servant. And as a domestic servant, you lost a ton of autonomy. From how you lived your life, to what you ate, to how you dressed. And on top of all of that, you were getting paid shit wages. So what was a woman to do? What were your options? It's been a few weeks since you met the woman with the diamonds and furs, and now you're standing with her outside of those new shops. What are they called again? Department stores. Big, beautiful, luxurious department stores. Your hands are a bit shaky, but the fur-clad woman next to you gives you an encouraging wink. You've practiced countless times. You know that the slit on your skirt is on the right, and the hook for the hosiery is on the left, and the pocket for the jewels is close to your knees, and you know to roll the silks from top to bottom before stuffing them into your hollow skirt. You think to yourself, this has to work. There's no way you can go back to sewing all those clothes for nothing, for pennies. Your eyes and fingers literally can't take much more, and the money for this job is just too good to not give it a try. The woman next to you whispers, "Remember, act like you belong, and they won't suspect a thing." You take a deep breath, and you enter the store. Within minutes, your dress begins to weigh you down with all of the luxury items that you've pinched, and within an hour, the store is nearly cleaned out. Before the clerk notices anything, you slip out the door again, several kilograms heavier, and hundreds of pounds richer. You feel a rush of exhilaration, and you realize you are never returning to that dead-end seamstress job. And the question of how long you'll be able to evade the police is the farthest thing from your mind, because you have officially become a member of the 40 Elephants. Crime, my delicious donut, crime is what so many turn to when the system has failed them. And shoplifting was the preferred crime of London's all-women gang, the 40 Elephants. Possibly having begun in the 1700s, the 40 Elephants officially started in the 1870s by one Mary Carr, with a reputation as the most dangerous woman in London. The gang started out small, hitting up a few stores here and there and making a name for themselves in the local area. Originally called the 40 Thieves, these so-called kleptomaniac women, as the media like to call them, changed names to reflect the territory that they had claimed, known as the Elephant and Castle area of southeast London. And their name was also kind of a double joke about the way they looked. From the very beginning, the women would stuff their Victorian-style dresses with all manner of items, and by the end of the job, they would be as stuffed as elephants, I guess. I don't know if many of them had seen an elephant, but that's what they thought. In the early 1900s, the women were somewhat organized, but they really took their criminal enterprise to the next level when a woman named Alice Diamond took charge of the elephants at the age of 20 in 1916. Alice, affectionately known as Diamond Annie because of the diamond rings on her fingies that doubled as extremely expensive brass knuckles, was an incredibly imposing woman. Standing at 5'9", which was taller than the average for men at that time, with a proclivity for the fluffiest of furs. So she was a glamazon woman covered in fur and diamonds. Under her reign as the queen of the 40 Elephants, she turned petty crime into an art form and standardized the profession with a playbook and a code of conduct known as the Hoisters Code. Members of the Elephants were not allowed to drink the night before a job. They always had to be in pairs. They were not allowed to wear/use any of the items that they stole. They had to be flipped as quickly as possible as to avoid being caught, but you were required and encouraged to use those profits to dress to the nines, to both blend in with the regular clientele, making it easier to steal things, and to keep up the image of the 40 Elephants. These were incredibly glamorous and fashionable women and girls. And as for the grand part, they also instituted getaway cars and several other innovative methods for thievery. And they also had an apprenticeship system during this time with a very rigorous training period and vetting process. As a 40 Elephants apprentice, young girls would be paired with older women and taught the various plays like rookies in the NFL. For example, one of the plays in this handbook was called The Crush, wherein a bunch of women would swarm the counter of a jewelry store or something like that and ask to see an item, and then that item would be passed from member to member until one of them either slipped away the item and pieced out, or swapped it with a fake, or stuck it under the counter with some bubble gum for another elephant to come along later and take it without being suspected. So when the initial women were all searched for that item, it wouldn't be found, and then another lady would come and snag it up. And just as a side note, I have to tell you that bubblegum was invented in 1928, so these women were innovators. They were like, hey, look at this delicious piece of candy. Let me use it in crime. I love that. I love that for them. Another play in the Elephant Handbook was the good old distraction. In one major case, a group of elephants went into a department store and one of them had a pillow stuffed in her dress to make it look like she was pregnant. Then, while looking up at their target, which was a 2,000-pound mink coat, in the center display window of a Manchester department store, okay, and $2,000 then would be like $155,000 in today's money, okay? So this was a big ticket item. So our fake pregnant woman was looking up at the mink coat, and then she pretended to collapse and make a huge scene that called over the entire staff and distracted everyone long enough for another elephant to roll the mink coat up and stuff it in her dress and walk away. No one the wiser until they realized that the mink coat was gone. And that mink coat was never recovered, ever. These women were not petty thieves, dear one. Nay, frickin' nay. They were masters of their craft. Through this apprenticeship system, the girls not only learned the different plays in the Hoister playbook, but they also learned how to create Hoister clothing, like grafter bloomers and shoplifter pockets to put inside their skirts. So grafter bloomers were kind of like this double lining bloomer that had like pockets inside, so you can just like stick stuff inside. And then the shoplifter, the pockets, pretty explanatory, self-explanatory. They would have slits in their skirts and they would go inside and have this extra pocket that was incredibly deep and incredibly large and put stuff inside. They also had pockets in their hosiery. They had pockets in their hat. They had pockets in their corsets. They had hooks everywhere. With their altered clothing, they were able to hold enormous amounts of stolen goods within their clothes. And one woman went so far as to put a false arm in one of her shirts so that she could like get her other arm out and take stuff easily and just like get her stuff and like boop, put it back in. It's amazing. People are so smart. My flappers are once again gasted by this. And yours are about to be too, because I know what's coming next and you don't, and I'm so excited to tell you. So, the women were especially interested in textiles, right? Silks, satins, things of that nature. And the older women would teach the younger women something called the rolling technique, which was explained in a confession by a former elephant named Shirley Pitts. And she said, quote, "Good hoisting is in the rolling, especially if you want to take furs or heavy items. There's a certain way that you learn to take stuff from the top and roll it small." And just as a side note, that lady Shirley, she shoplifted until she died in the early 1990s. So this woman, this old woman who saw the Roaring Twenties and was like doing her thing, she kept on stealing and then all the way into the 90s. Shirley, bless her. Bless her. Anyways, I digress. This method made it possible for women to steal things like mink coats, opera cloaks, and yards of fabric. Like I was saying, unfinished products were exceedingly popular items because they were easy to steal and they were hard to trace. Raw materials were way more profitable and way less risky than actual physical items. although actual physical items were stole all the time as well. There were multiple police reports of elephants during the Roaring Twenties being caught with yards and yards of silks and satin inside their dresses. An elephant named Olive Majestic, excellent name by the way, concealed 14 yards of silk in her pockets. Another woman concealed 55 yards of satin and 34 yards of silk. And just to put that into perspective, it takes about 3 yards to make 1 to 2 garments depending on the size. So they stole a lot of material that could have made a lot of clothes that could make a lot of money. A lot of money just shoved into their skirts. The money that these women were making allowed them unprecedented economic mobility. They were from the South Side, but they were wearing furs and diamonds and the latest fashion, and they were partying it up in the swankiest clubs and rubbing elbows with the people that they would have been serving. These women were the embodiment of everything that the Roaring Twenties represented. They were the it girls, the it flappers, and they did not give a single flying fanny about anything that anybody had to say. The 40 elephants, criminals though they were, had made a name for themselves, and everyone in London knew who they were. It's been years since your first job, and life has never been better. You have new clothes. You party it up at clubs that would put the Great Gatsby to shame. And you're with your newfound friends, and you dance, and you drink, and you enjoy the Roaring Twenties. You finally made it. You clawed your way through the rat race, and now you have all the money you could possibly want. But there's always that looming threat of what if this time is the time that you get caught. On the surface, dressing to the nines and wearing the latest fashions may seem like simply the vanity of some vapid women. Buying furs and diamonds would probably not be on the top of my priority list either if I were in desperate need of some cash. The crime of shoplifting as well may seem a bit childish and unsophisticated in the world of organized crime, but you and I both know, my delicious donut, that most things are not that simple. In our world of fast fashion and trends that change faster than your TikTok For You page, the politics of fashion may seem like they don't exist. But I am here to tell you, my little croissant, that you cannot separate politics, socioeconomic status, and fashion. Fashion, both men and women's, can tell us so much about the political climate, the status of a person, the job that that person does, the region they live in, their priorities in life, and so much more. In an incredibly fascinating research paper called Going on the Heist: Women, Work, and Shoplifting in London, the author William M. Mayer looks at the choice of shoplifting and purchasing luxury items and its direct relationship to 19th and 20th century badges of femininity. In the paper, William goes on to talk about how in the 1890s, the concept of the department store took off and luxury items became more accessible. Capitalism was popping the fuck off. William didn't say that, I did. And started digging its claws into the social constructs of what made people. And the idea of consumerism as inherently feminine took hold during this time as well. The desire to purchase luxury goods had become a part of consumption, which was a symbol of the bourgeoisie status and a marker of womanliness. Today, we can see these same ideas manifesting in Lululemons and Stanley Cups and Doc Martens and Vivienne Westwood. We can tell a lot about a person's job and their status in life. It can also put people down. If you were a middle schooler or high schooler just a few months ago without a Stanley Cup, you were a social pariah. If you didn't have your Lululemons in yoga class, were you even doing yoga? Fashion is interesting because it can play two roles. It can create in-groups, but it can also create out-groups. And this went doubly for the late 19th and early 20th century. And to reference William Mayer again, according to a board trade inquiry in 1899, loss of caste by domestic servants was inextricably linked to the issue of dress. Quote, "The fact cannot be denied that domestic workers are regarded by other workers as belonging to a lower social status. The distinctive dress which they are required to wear marks them out as a class apart, the cap being generally resented. The cap and apron together symbolized the subjugation of the domestic servant." Even before these women would speak, automatically their clothes barred them from social mobility and therefore freedom. And like we talked about earlier, domestic work was the largest category of workers in the UK, 1.7 million women. This social distancing became extremely apparent after World War I ended. The workforce had changed dramatically, with women working, air quotes, traditionally men's jobs during the war and staying in many of those jobs even after. Those women had way more opportunities for independence, upward social mobility, and in turn, freedom. They were the modern working woman. And these domestic workers wanted to be that modern working woman. Stealing clothes was not about vanity for the 40 elephants, at least not entirely. Wanting nice clothes and luxury items was about showing a social status that was impossible for them to have under any other circumstances. This is not a pull yourself up by the bootstraps type of a situation. There were no bootstraps. There were no boots. Their fur coats and white silk gloves and strings of pearls and diamonds were big, flashing neon signs saying to the world, "Hey, I'm an economically independent and modern working woman. I have value. Look at me." And while I do not endorse crime or theft, I'm not telling you to crime, okay? Please don't crime. This is not a TK endorsement of crime. However, I am also a chaotic neutral individual, and I can get behind fucking with capitalism a little bit and the status quo in an ethical way, okay? Ethical being the key phrase for that, and I cannot with 100% certainty say that I would not have joined the 40 elephants if put in the same situation. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if you were put in this same situation? Let's discuss. Like all good things, good being a strong word for the 40 elephants, they too had to come to an end. By the end of the 1940s, the 40 elephants had all but disbanded. The UK post-World War II had completely changed both the economy and the geography of London. The middle class was emerging and the accessibility of luxury items was at an all-time high. Scotland Yard had recently cracked down on shoplifting, and the tight modern styles made it tough to steal shit. Shoving a mink coat up a pencil skirt is just not physically or spiritually possible, dear one. The 40 elephants were no longer the queens of shoplifting. It's not known what exactly happened to most of the elephants. The nature of their work made record keeping kind of a no-no, and women were mostly using aliases. We do know that our friend Diamond Annie did go to jail for 18 months and then started herself a little brothel and lived her life until she unfortunately passed away from MS. We also know that our girly pop Shirley was kicking it up until the 1990s. Granted, they were of different generations, okay? We don't have like a 140-year-old shoplifting grandma vampire running around the world. Although the 40 elephants are gone and their memory often overshadowed by fellas like the real life Peaky Blinders, you can still see their shadows in places like the still standing Elephant and Castle pub, which you can go to this day. So if you're ever wandering around in a department store and you see a suspicious looking pregnant woman causing a scene, do a girly a solid and cause a bigger distraction so that her accomplices can get away with their heist. Well, dear one, we have come to our final thought today, and it is a rant. Nay, it is a plea. Netflix, this is for you. Please, for the love of all things historical, for the love of the sweetest, sweatiest crocodile god Sobek, please make at least a mini-series about the 40 elephants, okay? We've got a book. We've got 2 books, in fact, all right? We need a little docu-series, or give us Peaky Blinders, but make it 40 elephants. The drama would be incredible. The tensions would be high. I didn't even get to talk about all of the drama that happened within the 40 elephants. Diamond Annie, she was not super cool. She was a bit of a tyrant. And while she was drunk one day with a bunch of the other 40 elephants, they decided to go beat the shit out of one of the other elephants' husbands because she wasn't supposed to marry this guy. She got pregnant on accident. It was like a whole thing. The drama is there. The story writes itself, Netflix. Please call me. My DMs are always open. I have so many ideas for you to create amazing historical dramas. I do not need, I'm about to say something controversial yet brave, okay? I do not need another Bridgerton. Okay, there, I said it. I said it. I don't need another Bridgerton. I don't care, okay? And you know what? I'm gonna say something even more crazy, all right? Controversial yet brave. We don't need another season of Outlander, all right? We don't need it. And the girly pops might hate me for this one, but we don't need it, okay? There's only so much rippling pectorals and chest hair one girl can take. And I have met my quota. I need the 40 elephants. I need them. I need more women's historical dramas about bad women, okay? I need crime. I need passion. I don't need time travel. And I don't need the Regency era. I'm done. I'm done with the Regency, okay? I need the Roaring Twenties. That's what I want. Done with the 1820s, in with the Roaring Twenties. All right. That's my rant. I'm sorry if I disappointed you. I'm sorry if I made anybody upset. We can talk about it in the comments. But I'm telling you, no more Bridgerton, no more Outlander. We're done. Well, dear one, thank you for staying until the end of the episode. It really helps the algorithm gods know that this is a really interesting episode and other people should watch it and listen to it. That's really super stinking helpful. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed dressing up. If you're listening to the audio version, I'm in my closest approximation to a flapper outfit that I possibly could do. We attempted, a finger wave was attempted. It was failed. So we put on a scarf, and you know what? I'm happy with it. I'm happy with this outcome. I didn't buy anything for this. I just put together what I had. So if you enjoyed me dressing up in period appropriate clothing and you enjoyed this topic and episode, please let me know by leaving a comment or a rating/review. 5 stars is the best. You can also let me know what you thought of this episode in particular on Spotify. Don't forget to do something kind for yourself. If you were making anything, it looks beautiful. You're doing a great job. If you were cleaning your house while listening to this episode, good for you. I'm so proud of you. I'm gonna need you to pause whatever it is that you're doing, pick up your beverage, preferably water. Tea or coffee will do, but I'm gonna need you to get a water sometime soon. Take a little sippy sip. Delicious. And do something kind for yourself this week. Take care of yourself. It's almost February. What the fuck? That's crazy. Make sure you're taking time. Make sure that you are doing okay. Do some meditation. Touch some grass, babe. All right? Drink your water. And I will see you next week for an author interview. All right. I love you so much. Ted loves you too. She's down here. And I will see you later. Okay. Bye. What's wrong with me? You want to see Ted? Where are you, Ted? Hi. Little cutie pants. Oh my god, she's so cute. She sits here all day. Some kitty cat taxes for you. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, I know we could look at you all day, but we got things to do. Ooh, jump scare. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go, baby. How come every time you come around my London? I'm sorry, Ted. Am I being loud? Get the full effect. Get the full drama. Get all of it. Oh my god. Okay. Okay. This looks so cool and I'm so excited. Okay, why? I'm so nervous for this. I'm so nervous to create this, to put this out into the world. Because I don't know if this looks good. I don't know if this is giving what I feel in my mind it's giving. But we're just gonna hope and we're just gonna hope. That's all. That's all. We're just hoping and a praying and a wishing and a hoping. You will not believe how long this freaking took me. Nice! I come every time you come around my London. Bridge wanna go down like London, London, London. Am I being loud in my own house, Ted? I'm sorry, I can't even be mad at you. You're too cute. 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 Okay. I don't know what I want to know, but I want to know. And I'm nervous and I'm scared and I'm nervous and I'm scared and I'm nervous and I'm scared and I'm nervous and I'm scared. And I'm nervous with a little extra side of scared. I did a good job. I feel that I did a good job and I'm very proud of myself. And I'm allowed to be proud of myself. And I'm allowed to think that I did a good job, right? Yes. Okay. No, but actually, what are we doing here? But no, actually, what is going on?